ear. They're the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. The scientific names are Malleus, Incus, and Stapes. But they are on the ear model, so I'm not going to point to those. So if you want to put like a little note to yourself, not on this test, because I'm not going to take out the ear models. You'll have them on the last test. Now, in the neck region, there's something called a hyoid bone. There's only one of those. It's a movable bone. It helps with speech and swallowing. It's located in the throat above the larynx. It does not directly attach to any other bone in the body. And it does serve as a point of attachment for tongue and neck muscles. There should be a picture. See this little tiny little bone over here? 125. But if you come with me, and we'll go to the, yeah, I think you need the keys to the metal cabinet. I think they're probably in there. Or you may have them in the prep room. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so here's your hyoid. Let's hope they have them. We do have them by themselves, so it looks like True Blood, right? The little fangs sticking out. Your True Blood bone is your thyroid.
I think a thyroid.
Well, the thyroid is there.
Yeah,
that's why it's there.
Thyroid. Okay.
But yeah. So that little bone,
What's it called again?
the hyoid, your True Blood bone.
Too bad it comes back on in June. I can't
I
wait.
know, right?
I'm sorry, I need a picture.
Well, now I'm watching Dexter. Anything with blood and gore.
You got it?
Yeah. No, I'm recording. That's fine. Yeah.
So make sure you know your hyoid, because I will be able to find one in the boxes. So,
Label it.
Can you do me a favor? Can you hold your hand over the side?
Okay, so we did the hyoid. So now, turn the page. Your vertebral column. Now there should be a picture. Yeah, page 127. There are 26 vertebrae. So if I have one intact, the first 7 are called the cervical vertebrae. So here they are in the blue here. Then the next 12 in the green are the thoracic vertebrae. Then the lavender area are the 5 lumbar. Then there's 1 sacrum, which is the thick bone, and 1 coccyx, which is your tail bone. Here's the sacrum here, but it's missing the little coccyx. But I'm sure we have some intact. So if the vertebral column is attached, and we do have some, I think they're in the boxes, I could ask you what vertebra is this, so you would have to count. Mm-hmm. So the first 7 are the cervical, next 12 are the thoracic, lumbar, then sacrum. However, I could have a oh, here it is. I'm thinking of the ribs. I could have a vertebra by itself. So that's where I go through the structure of the vertebra. So the body, this big thing here is the body. That supports the weight. That's where your vertebral discs will be. They stack up between the bodies. So if I have a sticker on here, that would be a body of a vertebra. You wouldn't have to tell me, is it thoracic, lumbar, because I don't expect you to memorize them unless they're attached. So that's a body. Then you have and there should be pictures. Let's see. Here they are. Yeah. So this one looks a little bit, well, it's a little similar to that one. Okay, then you have the vertebral arch. So that would be this area in here. Again, if I wanted that, I would pick a bigger vertebra, but the vertebral arch or neural arch, that protects the spinal cord. Then there's a spinous process that attaches your soft tissue. Think of the spine of a fish, goes to the back. That would be the spinous. process. And then to the sides are the transverse processes. See, to the sides are the transverse processes. So the body, the vertebral or neural arch would be in here. The spinous process would be back here, and the transverse processes would be to the side. Okay, so those would be what you would need to know for vertebra was by itself. Okay, the sternum, that is your breastbone, and that's on the next page here. It has three parts. From here to here is the manubrium, right? See the manubrium? Then from here to here is the body. And then this little thing sticking out at the bottom is the xiphoid process. So with the sternum, again, the manubrium, it articulates with the clavicle. So the clavicle will articulate with it, you know, when it's the appropriate one. And we'll get to the clavicle in a moment. The body is the main part, and the xiphoid process allows for soft tissue attachment. There's a manubrial sternal joint. So you can see here the sternal joint here, manubrial or sternal angle they're talking about. That basically moves when you inhale. And the sternum, out of all the bones in your body, has the highest percentage of red blood cells. So if someone's suffering from leukemia and they want to make a final diagnosis, they will go in and do a sternal puncture of the bone marrow. And if that has a low percentage of red blood cells and has a high percentage of immature white blood cells, then that's usually the final diagnosis for leukemia. Okay, so that's what's unique about the sternum. Okay, for your ribs, again, if you count, if I have ribs attached, the first 7 are your true ribs. See, there's 24 or 12 pairs. The first 7 are the true ribs. They're called vertebral sternal. That means they attach directly to the sternum. The next 8 through 10 are your false or vertebrochondral ribs. They indirectly attach to the sternum. And then last but not least are your floating ribs. That's 11 and 12. They do not attach to the sternum at all. Those basically are there. Does anyone know why the floating ribs are there? They protect the kidneys. So they don't attach to the sternum, but they do protect the kidneys. All ribs, by the way, attach to the vertebral column. It's just how or if they attach to the sternum is how they get named. Now, if as I say, we may have some, and you're welcome to look through the cabinet also, we may have, and in the boxes, we may have some rib cages intact. If we do, then I could ask you, is this a true, false, or floating? If not, we have plenty of ribs by themselves. So if I have it like this, you would need to know the structure of the rib. And that, I believe they're showing you on the next page. Yeah, this looks a little bit like that. So this would be the head. This attaches to the vertebral column. This would be the neck. Okay, so you need to know the head, the neck. It's short and flattened. This little bump here is the tubercle. This articulates with the transverse process of the vertebra. So if this were the correct vertebra for this, they would join like that, right? So it makes sense. And the shaft or body is the longest part, which may or may not attach to the sternum either directly or indirectly. So if the rib is by itself, you would need to know the head, the neck, the tubercle, and the shaft. This little structure here is the angle. I didn't mention it on the sheet, but you see the curve is the angle, but then the long flattened part is the body or shaft. If I have it like this, I won't ask you, is it true or false?
Okay, I was gonna say, how do you tell the difference if it's just the
Length.
The length.
Length. They start off really small, then they get longer, and then they get small again, so it would have to be the length. But yeah, no, if it's by itself, it would be knowing the structures.
Okay.
Only if it's attached and you can count 1 through 7, then 8 through 10, and 11 and 12. Okay? Okay, so that's the rib. Alrighty. So that was your, and we'll get to the skull and when we're done. That was your axial skeleton, and believe it or not, minus the 22 bones of the skull, it adds up to 80. So